I tried reading 50 pages a day for a whole week. This year, I've struggled to build a really solid reading habit. It's something that I've had in the past, but for some reason this year, it hadn't clicked for me. I wanted to see if I was still capable of reading 50 pages a day and what it would take in my current life situation to be able to do that. Now, to some of you, 50 pages might sound like light work, and to others, 50 pages might sound like an insurmountable task that's really, really hard to do in one day. That's where I was when I started this challenge. It actually took me 2 whole days to get the first 50-page day completed. Something that's been really frustrating to me recently has been how long it feels like it takes me to get through books, and even if I love the book, I find myself getting bored towards the end of a book just by virtue of it taking 2 or 3 weeks to read the whole book. So one of my goals here is to finish books faster. I really want to be able to do that again and move at a pace that feels like I'm making substantial progress every day. It's something that motivates me to read more and gets me excited to pick up the next book without the dread of having it take a long time. After completing 50 pages in one day, December 13th became day 1 of this challenge. So I just finished day 1 of reading 50 pages a day. I am currently reading Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. I read from page 186 all the way to page 236. So this is 50 pages. Doesn't look all that impressive, at least not to me, but it's something, and it's actually a big portion of this book, which I'm super happy about. I'm really enjoying this book so far, and also when I'm reading books that are a little on the longer side, I start to get a little frustrated when it's taking me a while to finish them. So while I do want to savor this and enjoy the whole thing, I am conscious of wanting to get through it in a timely manner so I can move on to something else and sort of match the current vibes. You know, I didn't think this was too hard. I think it was a healthy challenge for me. It's a nice change of pace, literally, to actually speed up a little and sort of see that progress coming a bit faster, seeing that 50-page difference between where I was yesterday and where I'm at today. So that feels pretty rewarding to me. That said, towards the end, I was starting to get easily distractible. As I was getting more tired, I found myself putting down the book and picking up my phone every time there was like a section break. So that wasn't super ideal. I think I read best when my mind feels fresh, when it's more focused. And towards the end there, the last 10 or so pages took me a lot longer than the rest of it. So far, so good. I'll see if I can maintain it tomorrow and see how that goes. But yeah, I know a bit more of what to expect now, and I think I'll plan accordingly better tomorrow. So that's all for day 1. It had been quite a while since I managed to read that much in one day, and doing it felt really good. And that really built up my confidence. Once I had a feel for what 50 pages actually is like to sit down and read, and about how long that takes, it felt like the challenge opened up before me, like I had cracked it, basically. Different challenges arose down the line, but we'll get to that. Day 2 and day 3 were significantly easier than the first day as a result of this. The pages seemed to fly by, and it felt incredibly good to make rapid progress as I was reading Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. So getting my pace up really fueled me and got me excited to be reading faster. I'm typically not a proponent of like speed reading or trying to cram in as many pages as you can, but there is a noticeable difference in my enjoyment between when I'm reading slowly and when I'm reading at a pace that feels more fast and more efficient. All right, so my reading for today is complete. Although I ended up actually reading more than 50 pages today. I think I just had a little more time, a little less going on, was a little bit more determined to make sure that I actually get my 50 pages in. So I actually ended up doing, I guess that would make it about 70 pages for today so far. It's not impossible that I might get to 80 because I like to read before bed. So that's very possible. Right now it's almost 7 p.m. So I made really good time today, which isn't something I plan on happening for the rest of the days of this, just because, stuff gets in the way, life happens, but really happy with how today went. I did also make this little tracker device. So one thing that usually helps me when I'm trying to read more is a tangible sense of progress. So whether that's, the bookmark slowly moving through the book, or tracking it on an app like Storygraph, which is what I use, or something like that, it really helps me stay on pace and sort of understand and be able to see and feel rewarded for the reading that I'm doing. So I wanted to make something that's specifically made for reading 50 pages a day that isn't like, I don't know, the apps don't really do that super well. Yes, they show me how much I read, but no, they're not telling me that I've completed my 50 pages type of thing. So I went ahead and I did a little arts and crafts project. I made this little bookmark that has a little tracker on it that I made. So when I begin the day, it's over here all the way to the side. And then when I read 10 pages, I move it to 10. Once I read 20, I move it to 20. Once I read 30, 40, and then 50. So the idea is that it'll be a little bit nicer to track my reading this way. I think it's a little more fun. It's a little more tactile and interactive for me, which I always like. And it doubles as a bookmark. So I'm going to try out using this as my bookmark and see how it does. I think right now the one thing that isn't great is that the arrow moves so freely that it might be hard to keep in one spot, but I could make another prototype. I do think that using this really helped. That was something that was awesome today that I wasn't expecting to be as effective as it actually was. There's also this app I use. Wait, what's the app called? There's this app that I've been using called Forest. They're not a sponsor or anything. It's just an app that I really like. So in this app, you can set a timer for how long you want to focus for, and it starts to grow a tree for you based on the amount of time that you want to devote to being focused. And if you make it that whole stretch of time without opening your phone and moving away from that app, then it plants a tree in your forest, and you get to grow a forest of all the trees that you've grown using your focus. So that's really fun. It's a way to like kind of tangibly represent the focus that you're putting towards something, and it's something that I'm finding is really useful for me when I read. If I set a timer for 25 minutes, I get to grow a spruce tree and read like 19-ish pages. I read on like the medium to slow side of things, so that's how much I get done in 25 minutes, but that means that I can get done my 50 pages in about an hour. So using that is super helpful for me, and it keeps me from, picking up my phone mindlessly and getting distracted from the task at hand. So I do recommend checking out that app. Really good day today, and I'm excited to see what tomorrow holds, especially because I'm getting towards the end of tomorrow, and oh my gosh, the last few chapters that I read have been super emotionally impactful, and I'm just bracing myself for the last act of this fantastic book. So stay tuned. We just finished day 3 of reading 50 pages a day. So far, so good. This is starting to feel more manageable. I didn't end up making a second prototype of the page counter, but I do still want to do that. I made it to the 50 pages. I did it pretty early, so we were in the clear. There was no risk of me not completing it today. The frustrating thing is that I am now less than 50 pages away from the end of tomorrow. And when I'm less than 50 pages away from the end of it, that tells me that I should just plow through and read the whole thing. The thing is, I'm about to go to bed and I can't stay up all night. But it's really tempting. I do want to read before I go to bed. If it happens, it happens, and that'll be 80 pages for the day. But worst case scenario, I finish it tomorrow. And tomorrow and tomorrow. See you tomorrow. And tomorrow. And tomorrow. So I ended up actually finishing tomorrow on day 3. So that was pretty cool. It was a really good book. I very much enjoyed the last 150 or so pages as I was reading quicker. So much so that it gave me a little bit of a book hangover. If you're not familiar, a book hangover is when you read a book that impacts you or that you really liked a lot, and then it makes you have a resistance to picking up the next book. You're just not ready to move on yet. You're still sort of sitting in the end of that last book, and I had a little bit of that with tomorrow. So it took me all the way until the night of day 4 to start another book. I just started Bloom, which is a graphic novel, and I read the first 110 pages of it. So graphic novel pages go by way faster than novel pages, so I figure 100-ish is on par for a reading pace with this. Now that is how far I'm this far into the book, the small section here. I'm really liking it so far. I think it's definitely a lighter story. It's not as deep, it's not as complex, but it's very enjoyable so far. Overall, seems like a solid story, and I'm excited to see what happens. I think there's a good chance I can finish it tomorrow. This is a library book, so I might have to finish it tomorrow. So we'll see how that goes. Super hard to equate graphic novel pages to regular novel pages, but I figured 100 pages is probably about fair for this challenge. It's not an exact science, but the goal here is to read a substantial amount, and that I did. I woke up on day 5 and inhaled the last 250 pages of Bloom. I liked it a lot, but in my opinion, it wasn't anything super groundbreaking. It was a really sweet romance story that I didn't have to think too hard about, which made it probably the perfect book to pick up after a heavy hitter like Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. It was exactly what I needed at the time. On the night of day 5, after I finished Bloom, I cracked back open The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan, which is the first book in the Wheel of Time. This was the first time I had picked it up in months after setting it down in May, and it actually started working for me again. I actually started enjoying it, and it felt like the right choice for the moment. I set this aside in May because it really just wasn't the right time for me to read it. I wasn't in the right headspace to be enjoying epic fantasy. A lot of stuff was happening in my own life that felt like enough of an adventure that I didn't need the fictional one. I read about 20 pages that night, which was enough to get me through the slog of a chapter that made me put it down in the first place. Really successful day on day 5. Between Bloom and The Eye of the World, I read 270 pages that day. Again, a lot of them were graphic novel pages, but that's still a lot of reading for me. Day 6 is where things really got wild. I woke up and there was a massive storm raging outside. It was pouring down rain. The power in my house was out, and so all of my plans for that day that relied on electricity were out the window. It's been a weird day, no electricity or anything, so reading has been like weird to figure out, and just not having access to a lamp has been a challenge. So I'm sitting here in my car and I'm reading The Eye of the World. I'm really liking it. I'm reading this kind of weird hardcover version that I got online. It's in terrible condition, but I just wanted to read like a larger copy of it because the one that I have been reading is this mass market paperback version, which is awesome, but it's just hard to, hold open a mass market paperback. I'm still tracking it based on the page count in this, so every time I hit a chapter mark, I see what page it's on in this one. Kind of a roundabout system, but I've read 50 pages for today in this. If you couldn't already tell, I have way too much time on my hands these days, and that's part of why this challenge is working out for me. That's part of the reason that I've been able to read as much as I have been. So successful day yesterday, successful day today. I'm probably gonna keep reading because I don't have a whole lot else I can do. We don't have internet or anything because of the power outage. So we'll see what happens. But it's nice to sit here in my car, be warm. I have light, which is awesome. I'm feeling very grateful for that. So gonna get back to reading. We'll see how much I end up getting through, but I am enjoying Eye of the World again. I got through this one really slow part, so it's been nice. I ended up reading 100 pages of The Eye of the World. That's an absolutely ridiculous amount for me to read in one day. And it's something that wouldn't have happened without that power outage. That's not a normal day for me. The power outage really did suck in a lot of ways. It was not an easy day. But that said, I did get a lot of reading in, so I'm grateful for that at least. Now get this. Yesterday was day 7, and it was the only day that I didn't reach 50 pages. I know. Technically, I failed the challenge on the last day of the challenge. Super disappointing, I know. I only read 25 pages yesterday, which is half of the amount that I needed and significantly less than I had done the previous few days. In my opinion, it's equally important to look at the reasons why I didn't complete it yesterday and sort of cross-reference that with the days that I did complete it. I think it's a result of being burnt out from reading 100 pages on day 6. That is not a normal amount for me and way too much reading for me to handle on a typical day. In addition, all of the stuff that I had planned to do on day 6 in terms of like personal life, work stuff, all that jazz, all got pushed onto day 7. So I had a lot more that I had to get done that day, and as a result, I wasn't able to read as much. It just goes to show that life happens and we sometimes have to adapt our reading habits in order to fit the current situation. So was this challenge a success? Let me know down in the comments what you think. To me, I think it was a huge success. I learned a lot about my reading habits and really built up some of that confidence that I lacked earlier this year. I learned that in my current life situation, which admittedly does have a lot more free time than I typically do, I'm totally capable of reading 50 pages a day, and that's not a super crazy number for me to reach. I also learned that as much as I'd love to read 50 pages consistently every day, sometimes it's going to be a lot more than that, and sometimes it's going to be a lot less than that, depending on what I have going on. I think that's super important to consider, especially if you're just getting back into reading. If you made it this far in
the video, I think you'd be a perfect fit to be a subscriber of this channel. I'm Sam Cody, and I do book-related videos here on YouTube, so hit that button down below. Big thank you to my awesome patrons. They make it possible to do what I do here and bring you some awesome content. If you'd like to be a patron, there's a link down in the description for you to sign up and get some additional benefits. I know I read all fiction books in this video, but if you'd like some recommendations for nonfiction essay collections, I've got this video right here for you to check out. It's got 3 of my favorite essay collections ever, and I think you should check them out. Okay, that's all. See ya.